Hey, what is going on, Joe Joe in the morning family? It's Monday. I love Mondays. I get to live the dream all over again. I really believe that we should create the life that God has created us to live. And by creating the life that God has created us to live, we're going to love our life. And a lot of times people do not love their life because situations or choices they've made. But today, what we're going to talk about is how to think about and deal with and come against the number one thing in your life that is holding you back. If someone goes to the doctor says, "How can I help you? Why are you here?" I know a gentleman who's an ER doctor, and when he said people come into their clinic, "Why are you here? How can I help you?" Because they say that their job is to get people back to normal, okay? And then you go to the ER, you have a reason why you're there. Same thing in life. What is the number one thing in life that is holding you back? It may have been 10 years ago, somebody did something to you that you haven't got over. You haven't forgiven them. You still hold bitterness. Bitterness is a nasty beast. Unforgiveness is a nasty beast. It may be something physical that happened. You may have broke a leg, an arm, it didn't heal properly. I know that I had a surgery one time and I needed some help after the surgery, and that's what brought me to our health coaching program, which was a huge blessing. What you got to understand is John 10:10. The enemy comes to kill, steal, and destroy, but God comes to give life and life more abundantly. A lot of times, your greatest life is hidden behind you overcoming the very thing that is hurting you. I'm not rude at all, but recently somebody sat down with me and they were like, got all, and just get real emotional. And they said, "I've been church hurt." And kind of like it was a badge of honor. And I just kind of started laughing. I said, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I don't mean to be rude, but everybody's been church hurt." And they're like, "Well, obviously you've never been church hurt." I said, "Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. If anybody in the world should talk about church hurt, it should be pastors, apostles, and prophets," okay? Yeah. And they were like, "Oh." And so as I talked to this person for about 10 minutes, they were like, "I'm okay." I said, "Yeah, you're okay." Like, let's say, for example, you were in Texarkana, and I've had people come to our church, and I tell them to go back to their church and get restored. But they'll say, "I've been church hurt." I'm like, "Okay, there's 350 churches in our city. You just go find another one." And they get healed from that. They go on. If not, they'll go from church to church to church. We had somebody come to our church about 3 months ago. "God's leading me to your church." I said, "Oh, no, he is not. He is not leading you to this church." They said, "Why?" I said, "Because I know you and your crazy self. You've been to 15 churches in 10 years, and you cause havoc in every one. We got peace in our church. We got the power of God. You're not coming in here acting crazy." Never got over that one thing. I was at a men's conference one time, and this guy was real loud, boisterous, loud, obnoxious. And so he said something to me, and I said, "Hey, how long have you been living this facade, this lie?" He said, "What do you mean?" I said, "How old are you?" He said, "I'm 60. I said, you come in here mouthing and acting ignorant. What happened to you? I'm talking big old dude. He probably about my height, about 6'4", probably about 260. He broke weeping. When I was about 25, I married a lady. She broke me. Only married 18 months, but she broke me. She made me feel like I was next to nothing. Just like next to nothing. Just treated me bad, cheated on me, took all of our money, told me I was worthless. So I would get married and get married and get married, and everyone ended. And I said, so you never got healed from your first marriage and just kept wounding more people along the way. He's like, yes, yes. I'm talking, we had a straight up deliverance. The next day, he walks into church holding his wife's hand. And this new wife walked up and said, I don't know what you did to him or said to him, but he is radically set free. It's that number one thing. I had unforgiveness towards people who hurt me before. And when I got set free, it's like the heavens opened up. And I got healed, and I went to this guy who hurt me so bad. And I said, I forgive you for doing this, and I forgive you, man. I remember you said this. This guy looked at me and said, man, I don't even remember saying that. What? And I told him again. He goes, oh, I think I do remember. That's not what I meant by that. I'm saying, what? What? I thought you hated me and were trying to wound me. I was real young in ministry. You wounded me. We were the same type of ministry. You were coming against me, all this stuff. He's like, bro, I tell people about how awesome you are all the time. What? What? And he said, you've been carrying around this for so long? I said, don't you dare laugh at me. I remember what he said, and I wrote it down. I write everything down, I wrote it down. He said, Joe, that's not what I meant. I carried around basically a lie, a straight up lie for a year. Had somebody call me a while back and say, man, when I was younger, you hurt me, you did this, and he told me some stuff. And I was like, I didn't do that. I wasn't the one. Something happened in a church, and I had nothing to do with it. I had nothing to do with it. And I was like, man, look, I'm sorry you feel this way, but I was the one that did any of that in our church. I know what you're talking. I remember vaguely, but I remember I wasn't a part of it, And so sometimes we carry stuff that's really not even there. It's kind of like a lie. Well, what if I'll never forget this story. I was preaching and around the Houston area. I was preaching. This is a really good church. And I was prophesying over this couple. And I got this one couple and I started prophesying over them. And I said, and the Lord says you're about to start a very, very successful business. Well, the wife turns and walks back to her seat. The husband's like, and I said, when church was over, I said, hey, man, walked up to the couple, really good people. I said, hey, what? When I said that about the business, ma'am, you just booked it back. And he said, sir, I've started 2 businesses, put all of our money, all of our time, energy, effort into them. And within 2 years, they both went bankrupt. She said, I don't want to do it again. And I said, well, then why did I prophesy it? He said, well, I brought it up to her a week ago. I felt I was supposed to start another business. She said, we'll trust the Lord and we'll do what the Lord says, but I don't want to go through it again. So I actually came back to preach in that church about 2 years later. And I was trying to focus, but it's hard to focus when two people's faces are glowing like Moses coming off the mountain glowing. First one at the altar. And I just walked up. I said, hey, we'll talk after church. But I could tell y'all want to talk to me all the time. What's up? He said, we started the business. And she said, it's going great. It is constantly growing. New people are coming in. Thank you for that word. I said, yeah. And I went to praying for everybody else who was over. They started talking to me. They said, we didn't want to do it, but the Lord had spoke to us about it. But then when you prophesied over us, it was confirmation. We got over our fear of our past failures. And now we're making finances that we've never thought we would make. The pastors like Joe, they are sowing into, their heart was like missions. They were sowing big into missions that the church did, and they were sowing into the church more. And they said they have just become this radiant couple in our church. And I was like, wow, how many people, are one step away from getting rid of just something. I had a guy tell me one time that he struggled with some different type of addictions. And like he said, man, I get gas at this one convenience store. And for years, I've always bought alcohol and cigarette at this one convenience store. And every time I go back, and I said, okay. And I said, where do you live? Right here. I live here and I work here. And I go this way to work. I said, can you go this way to work? He said, yeah. I said, is there a convenience store? He said, yeah. I said, go to a different convenience store. You ever bought alcohol and cigarettes at this convenience store? He said, no. I said, go a different direction. The guy said, Joe, that sounded so simple to me. But I had no recollection, no memory of buying alcohol and cigarettes in this convenience store over here. So I just went a different direction. Never struggled with it again. That's a win right there, friends. That is a win right there. I remember when I wrote my first book, I was so excited. And I put the book out, and didn't sell a whole lot of copies. Sold some, but not a whole lot. Wrote my second book. Didn't sell a whole lot of copies, sold some. The Lord said, write a third book. And I said, okay. And the Lord said, write your books. They're not going to sell now. They're going to sell later. So we produced 15 books in all. I think I wrote like 11 or 12. My wife has co-authored 2 or 3 with me. And then we've done a collaboration with some people. And some days I remember it was I've been writing 5 years. And then in a 90-day period, I sold more books in that 90 days than in the first 5 years. But even though they weren't selling, I didn't write them to sell. Write them as a resource. I just kept doing it. So my mindset on a lot of things is, well, what if this one? I have people say, well, what if I failed in multiple things? Well, what if this next one's the one? What if this next one's the one? Health coaching. We have a few hundred health coaches in our organization. Some do great. Some have great side incomes. Some have used it as income replacement. We have quite a few coaches that they're full-time health coaches. That's what they do now. And sometimes we sign up a coach and they really don't do much with it. We may sign up another one and they may sign up a few people. Then we sign up the next one and they may end up doing it, full time. You have no idea what's going to happen. Some people do it for a great side income. And I tell our coaches when they sign up a coach, what if the next coach you sign up is the one you've been looking for? You have no idea. I got a friend of mine who does, remodels and flips houses. And he does it, makes a little, makes a little, makes a little. And I just said, well, what if that next project's the one you've been looking for? That actually you bought a house way too cheap. And after you remodeled it, it turned out really good. And he did a few more, and he's like, man, it just hasn't happened. I'm paying my bills, and I like what I do. But then he bought a house way too cheap. I mean, way too cheap. And somebody, I think they got left it as an inheritance, and they didn't know what it was worth, and they didn't want to fly down and look at it. So they just put a price on it that was way too cheap. And then actually the bones and structure of the house was better than they thought. So the remodel was great, and he did phenomenal on it. Just because you've had a few bad experiences, don't let it stop you. Just because, I remember first time I prayed for somebody in a wheelchair, they got up and walked. Second time, nothing. Third time, nothing. Fourth time, now I didn't know these people, so I'm sure they, were healed later. But I didn't get frustrated. I just kept praying. And over the years, we put numerous people out of wheelchairs, miraculous healings. I remember one day God told me to write for Charisma magazine. God told me to write for Charisma. God didn't tell Charisma to let me write. And so I wrote him an article in with all the confidence in the world. I didn't hear nothing. I didn't even get a rejection letter. I didn't get nothing. I would just send it to where I thought I was supposed to send it. Until one day I sent in an article. Somebody said, hey, send your article here. And I sent it into the editor. Guys, it was my 89th article. 89th. My first 88. I did not get published. 88 no's. 88 non-published articles. I wrote that 89th. The Lord told me to write it, and I was like, God, if I'm dealing with rejection and you're trying to teach me something, help me get over this. I wrote it, and I remember one morning I woke up a little bit before 6, and I was praying. I felt excitement, and at 6 o'clock the Lord said, look at Charisma, and I looked, and there was my article. And then the editor at that time, Jennifer LeClaire, reached out and said, hey, pretty good article. Had to tweak a few little things, but pretty good. Go ahead and send me some more. And so for the next few years, I was just sending articles in all the time, and they were getting published. You would think after 88 rejections, you'd be smart enough not to send in another one. I'm not, okay, I'm not. I was just standing on the word from God. That 89th article got published. Can you do one more try? Can you do one more try? Come on, one more try. If you're in sales, try one more sales call. If you're a soul winner and you've been out there on the street and everybody's been rejecting you, saying hostile things to you, try to win just one more soul. Just go witness to one more person. If you're praying for healing and people, they're not getting healed, just try one more person. I can't tell you how many people I prayed for and didn't get healed, but they knew who I was, and so they messaged me a week later and got healed. I remember one time I was praying for somebody at a meeting, and I was just like, I was almost distraught that they didn't get healed. The next night I came to service, and I was like, church, let's pray, let's pray. I walked in, everybody was smiling. I said, Pastor, why is everybody like super giddy? They said, that person went home last night, and they prayed for an hour after service, and when they were in their bedroom crying out to God, the healing you said was going to manifested. And I'm like, what? I'm telling you. Try one more. That's what I got for you today. Well, what is that one thing? That one thing. I remember one more thing. I needed a physical healing, and it was really limiting me because it limited my mobility. And I was traveling tons, just traveling, flying every week, sometimes one or two different ministry places, and trying to make it home. to preach here. And I said, God, when I get healed, I didn't say if, when I get healed, I'm going to amp up what I'm doing. I'm going to roll. I had a purpose behind my healing. And when I got healed, it's true to my word, just rolling. Okay? So you're going to be okay. And if it's your thoughts, change your thought pattern. Just like the guy that would go this way to get gas, he would always buy alcohol and cigarettes. He went the other way and never did it again. Hope this helped. If you need prayer, message me. Go to the website, joejoedawson.net. Go to the contact button, hit it. There's a place that says prayer. Send me prayer requests. I'd love to help you.